Yo, what's poppin'? Got a lot of Overwatch to go through. So 19 out of the 20 possible maps. I guess more if you include draws, but I will not. So this is actually a 3-2 victory for Florida, not London. I predicted a 3 over London. It wasn't. So first up, Florida. 6-6 with a +1 against the London's Power 8-4 with a +6. If I go a little fast, it's because I want to go to bed because it's 3:53 a.m. when I'm recording this. So it's bedtime, basically. So Lee Jung's at 2-0 for London. Florida playing XE checkmate someone, Rupal and Animo. London playing Backbone Sparker, Hadi Admiral, and Landon. Control centers 100-13. Florida playing Sojourn May Ryan Map Lucio. London playing May Sojourn Ryan Lucio Map. So Florida opting to mirror the Reinhardt. As we know, that never works out, and they just kind of lose. Florida ended up capping first. That's why they get a little bit of 13%, but then after that, London just roll over. Sparker's going crazy. And it's just funny that you think that you can win against London in the mirror. You just can't. Give up. Gardens is 183 for London. Florida playing Sojourn. Farah Ball, Zen, Mercy. London playing Mercy, Summer, Ryan, Lucio, Bath. It's very interesting because the Farah is actually quite good enough because it ends up forcing London off of the rush onto the ball. But London are still just better on the ball right at this point. And the Florida ult usage is really poor. The ults just aren't getting enough value. The barrages are solo barrages or just on nothing in lost fights. The minefield isn't where you want it to be. It's just not there. One thing I found interesting was checkmate on the Sombra, or Sparker on the Sombra rather. He's like checking the Pharah almost and kind of taking the eyes of checkmate off of like his team. And I don't know, it's very interesting because it's like, well, the Pharah can't just ignore the Sombra, she'll just get perma hacked and she will get gunned down. Um, so I don't know, kind of like a way to take away the vision and acting as a way to like just stop the Pharah from doing her job a little bit, and then Linda can run in and do the rush. So I kind of like it, and also you have the added effect of taking care of the wrecking ball. So really good. Eichenwald 2-0 or 2-1 for London. Summer J comes in for Animo. We finally find him. He is in Hawaii with the team. Shax comes in for Backbone, and Backbone goes on to the flex support that we have seen. Florida on their offense play Sojourn, Tracer, Winston, Ana, Zen. London play Tracer, Sojourn, Winston, Zen, Ana. Same composition, just in a different order. Florida make it through A pretty fast. They find the opening frags. They get traded though, and there's a little bit of a London recontest. So they get 4 minutes into B, so it takes them like about 2 minutes or so. But it's a pretty solid offense on A. Then their ult usage is still bad. They end up using more ults in scrappy fights and lose compared to London. Like they would use like 4 ults or 5 ults, and London would just use 2 or 3 and they'd lose. So just the ult usage isn't there because you should win those fights. You use more ultimates, you should win, but they just don't. Um, Florida's doing a very bad job of taking London off of the high ground, and they're just kind of on it for free. And they just kind of lose on B, and they just lose. London on their offense, they play Tracer, Sojourner, Rhines, and Ana, with Florida playing the same thing except a Winston. So the classic London Ryan pulls out. And let it kind of roll through A like very fast. So you had to be with 5:35 because Sparker gets a pick. Hottie charges onto someone who dives the backline. He just dies. And they just roll. And Florida were holding for a decent amount of time on B. Someone was playing very aggressively onto the backline. He was just jumping in like over. You know how there's the gate, and then he would just jump over the gate and onto the backline, basically on A. Hottie just kind of walked in and won though. In the end, he was just walking with the payload, just doing his thing, standard Hottie gaming. And the aggression was good for someone, but he was punished for it a bit. Um, so I don't know. London ended up winning. Moving on to Gibraltar. This is where the comeback starts. Florida do finish the reverse sweep and they win. So Gibraltar is a 1-0 for Florida. Animo comes in for Summerjed. Florida playing Widow, Tracer, Winston on a Brig. London playing Tracer, so join Winston, Zen, Ana. I do enjoy Florida's comp a little bit more here. I think the Brig does have more value than the Zenyatta because the Brig is just so good for either maintaining the high ground when you have it or brawling in server, which it does. It does both of those things. Zenyatta just isn't able to do as much. Um, so yeah, but that said, London do hold A for a little bit. For a good while, actually. Florida were eventually able to rotate onto the cart and then kill London as they were trying to get to the cart and stop the cap. But it was looking very bad, and it did look like a full hold, and it looked like Florida was just going home, and without much of a fight. But they don't. Florida ended up scrapping it a long fight on B, and they gain a lot of push, but towards the end of B, they just peter out. And this is where the Zenyatta pick does come into play. Zenyatta very good on B and C, but they don't even get to C. But where you can be placed really far back with Sparker and just kind of output a ton of damage. Whereas the Brig is still good at holding control of the shuttle, but not able to actually pressure the Zenyatta at all at this point. But yeah, London hold at the end of B. Admiral and Sparker, or not Admiral, Backbone and Sparker doing far too much. Doing an unreal amount, really. London on their offense play Tracer, Sojourn, and Winston, Zen, Ana. Florida play the Widowmaker instead and the Brig instead of Zen. X is finding some really good picks and he's trading out a lot. But Sparker's also finding good picks. But the biggest thing here is that HOU was really struggling to dive in. He was just kind of dying. Shax was unable to really pressure the card. Exy was doing a great job of killing him, as well as Checkmate. And Florida just holds strong on the first line. They don't let London through at all. So Exy, this is where Exy kind of starts to wake up a little bit. And Sparker hasn't like died down. Sparker is still playing right with him, but he needs to do more than that for his team to win, or his team needs to do more. His team kind of let him down here. Sparker deserved this map win probably. Sparker deserved this series win, to be honest with you. Calcio is a 62-49 win for Florida. Backbone goes back onto the flex DPS, and Admiral comes in on the support role. Florida playing at Sojourn, Genji, Winston on a Lucio. They decided, we're not going to mirror the Reinhardt anymore. London playing Mei, Sojourn, Ryan, Lucio, Bap. Florida win the first fight, and they are just jumping over London, and they're just winning. They're just winning like that. London do take a lead for a good amount of time at the start. I'd say a few minutes, maybe 3 minutes or so, maybe a bit more. I don't know. But they're just unable to make it under the bridge, moving into the Florida territory. They just can't do it. Florida are stanced up on that high ground. They dive over the Reinhardt. The Reinhardt can't really push up into the spawn to try and stop them from gaining positioning, and they just lose. Eventually, Florida, they grind it out. They get past the point where London is. They make it through under the bridge. I don't think they even get a checkpoint, but they do make it through. And London are just unable to get through that bridge. I think they do get a checkpoint, actually. Yeah. Wait. Reading? I don't think so. I don't see a checkpoint. I see that. No, I don't see it. So I don't think they did. But yeah, just the standard thing that's been the problem with London at times on this map is if they cannot get the positioning pushed up into the spawn kind of to stop the enemy team from getting onto that bridge and securing angles, they're going to struggle, and London was never able to do that. We've seen this before. This isn't a new thing with London. This is a problem with Rush on this map that we've seen teams be able to exploit. Florida was able to exploit it, and they win. So now they're up 2, and now they're tied, and Oasis is a 2-1 for Florida. City Center's a 100-75 win. Florida playing Sojourn, Tracer, Winston on a Lucio. London playing the same thing with Ball and Moira. So we get the Lucio Moira, the start of the Lucio Moira downfall. Florida, however, just killing the London backline. They're over and over on the City Center. I do like the Ball more than the Winston here. And they're just dying. London isn't able to kill the Florida backline fast enough. And wait, hold on. I said I like the Ball more here. I do. However, it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. London were able to flip it over at 99. But Florida are just winning. Ultra both sides. Florida coming on top. They are outplaying London at this point. And it's really just the backline of London is just dying. Even though they're on Lucio Moira, they are just dying. I don't know. I said 2-1. It's 2-0. My apologies. It's a 2-0. They don't go all the way. Garden is a 100-47 for Florida. They're playing Sojourn, Genji, Winston on a Lucio. London playing Sombra, Tracer, Ryan, Lucio, Moira. Now, what is this composition from London? You have the Reinhardt. You have the Lucio. Sure. You have Moira. Don't love it. But then you have Sombra, Tracer. So is HOU playing a Wrecking Ball style Reinhardt? Is he playing a 6-man style where he's diving in? He's not getting any help. So he just be ignored, basically. London's whole thing, this composition needs to attack from multiple angles. You know where the Ryan's coming from, and he's kind of like he can get there quickly, but he's not as fast as a Wrecking Ball or a Winston at getting there, so we can't do that. Once he gets there, he can't save his team with a bubble or displace the enemy really well. So what is his goal here? It doesn't make any sense. It's really bad. It is really bad. Florida are just killing the backline. Anytime you see the dive thing come out, Ryan can pin across the map. The backline can't do that as well. They just get jumped on and die. And the London backline or the Florida backline just kind of like the team that can speed out. He can do whatever he wants. I don't know. This was really bad. It was really bad, and I don't know what the strategy was. I have no idea, and I hope I never see it again. This was not. I never want to see it. I don't want to see it ever, ever. I beg. The Thompson player of the match is actually going to be someone. I thought he really brought it back. He was being a little too aggressive on like Eichenwald. I mentioned he was going far too aggressive into the back line. He does pull it back a little bit, and he doesn't get rid of the aggression, but he pulls it back enough that he tested the limits. He knows how far he can go, and he has successfully played to them. And after that, it's really good. Watchpoint Gibraltar. I talked about how Xe was doing a lot. The same can be said with someone. He was killing threesome fights. There were fights. He was just doing a lot. And then especially whenever Florida targeted, they started dealing with Sparker more, so that he had to do more to win, kind of, and he was more pressured. Um, and forcing him on the tracer, that could be part of the reason why he was on the tracer here, the tracer here. Like he didn't play Sojourn. If you get Sparker off of Sojourn, you have a better chance of winning, I think. And Florida did it. Helps that Xe did very well, right? But after they couldn't dive Sparker, he just out the backline, and then the backline died. Overall, really great work from Florida to get back together. Coming back on the reverse sweep is huge. And it was all London until halfway through Jib even. It was just all London until Xe got better. Someone pops off, and that's just it. London did not make the proper adjustments to deal with Florida's adjustments, and they just lose. And it really is a choke. They really should have had this. And we can say, "Oh, London, you did great. Don't beat yourselves up over this. You really should have had this win, right? You had them dead to rights. It was just a matter of putting the final nail in the coffin. They couldn't do it. I would say this is not like I don't know. You can say making it to Hawaii is good enough. I don't think it is. I don't know. I think this team needed to do more. Um, because we don't know what the next meta will look like. We don't know if this team's going to be able to do as much as they did. Um, and I feel like it was kind of shown that this team relies on Sparker a lot more than people think of. Like they can say, "Oh, Hottie, Chatty, he's doing so much," but Sparker is the true carry of this team through and through. And if you shut him down, this team has a very poor chance of winning, I think. And Florida kind of showed that. They did do, there was a pretty big shift on just Gibraltar. Actually starts doing more. Sparker starts doing less. London starts doing less. I don't know. We'll see. Moving on to Toronto Defiant against the Houston Outlaws. It says 3-0 Shanghai. It's not entirely how it happened because they aren't there. It's a 3-2 for Houston. So we get the second map 5 up 3. Oasis is a 2-0 for Houston. Toronto playing Hisu, Finale, Muse, Chorong, and Twilight. Houston playing Merit, Pelican, Dante, Iris, and Alastro. University is 142 for Houston. Toronto playing Ash Tracer, Balls, and Ana. Houston, Sojourn, Echo, Doom, Ana, Zen. So I didn't write much here. Don't remember what was happening. Probably wasn't, whatever. From the looks of things, Houston were diving very easily. Muse was falling low to Pelican. Pelican was going pretty big. Hisu also had some good moments, but what it looks like, Houston just won. I don't see Finale's name here at all. Makes me suspect he didn't do a lot. City Center, 199 for Houston. Toronto playing the same composition. Houston playing the same composition. Nice and easy. Both teams, one likes the ball, one likes Doomfist. But Toronto were in the lead for a long time. But then Twilight ends up dying before he can get a nano boost off, and Houston get a dive win, and then they kind of fumble. They had, this was very sad. They had the tools to win this. They had the ultimate advantage at a 99-99 overtime fight. They get the stick they need from Finale, and they just fumble it. They just don't get it. It's so sad. Dante goes nano, and Twilight gets picked off by Lastro, and from there, Houston end up winning. They just needed to not get picked off, and they had the ultimates. Houston were coming up on ultimates, but they got the stick they needed on the Ana that was approaching nano boost. It's just sad. It's just sad. This was this, there's a good chance this was a Toronto win. It doesn't turn out. Doesn't turn out. I can want a 4-3 for Toronto. Hotba comes in for Muse. So we see a little bit of Hotba action. On Houston's offense, I was eating, but they ended up capping with 108. Of course, that was a long time ago. I don't exactly remember what happened now. So my bad. I was eating Mr. Noodles. They were okay. Had better. Toronto on their offense, they're playing Ash Tracer, Zarya, Zen, Ana. Houston playing Sojourn, Echo, Doom, Ana, Zen. Oh, actually, Toronto. I don't remember. I can't. So anyway, Hoppa is just walking with Zarya. He is just strutting around. He's strutting, man. Just walking in, just beaming them down. He is killing everyone. It works a fight. Doesn't work the next fight. But then HOU bobs, and they have 345 in their B. So they just keep on trucking. Houston does get a good dive off to stop the momentum on B, but Hoppa comes in. He's still strutting around. He's still doing his stuff. He's just walking on the cart, beaming anyone who touches him and dies. No, and not dies. He kills anyone that tries to touch him. So they give a lot of space, and Houston chooses to dive the back line instead. But he gets the bubbles out when he needs to. He walks back, deals with Dante, and they have 235 entering C. Hoppa, still with high charge, just keeps on rolling. He gets a big grab off. He kills 3 in Toronto Capital 150. It's a Hoppa show. Hoppa goes crazy. Houston, with their 1 minute and 8-second offense, play Ash Echo Doom on a Zen. Toronto play Tracer Zarya instead. But yeah, Toronto, both Ash pick their respective flex DPS on the other side. Twilight ends up dying. Hoppa kills Dante, but Toronto are forced to give about 56%, but then HOU kills 4, so don't even worry about it. Toronto's 150. Hoppa continues he's just on a treadmill, just walking, and he wins. And it's really weird. Houston's actually struggling to deal with the Zarya. The bubbles mean that whenever they do dive the backline, they live long enough to actually survive and find a way to kill Dante or lose basically. Because once the supports go down, Hoppa is very vulnerable, so they have to keep them alive. But Hoppa's doing so much, and don't even need to worry about it. Dorado is a 3-2 for Toronto. Muse comes in for Hoppa. Piggy comes in for Dante. Houston on their offense plays Sojourn, Echo, Winston on a Zen. Toronto play the same thing except with a Tracer and an Ash. But Houston are kind of struggling for a bit. Toronto drop onto Houston in A, just drop, standard Dorado first. Piggy's getting pretty hard punished on the Winston, and HOU is fragging out. But Houston do get a good dive off with ultimates, including the duplicate. They have 230 into B. Just overtime, I believe. But Toronto don't really give Houston anything. They're scrappy fights, and they last a long time. But Houston are getting decent card progress as it goes on. And Piggy manages to win out in overtime, stalling for a long time. I feel like he probably should have died. He was discorded, and he was jumping around the cart. And I thought Charong and HOU would be able to take him out. They weren't able to. They have 130 entering C. But now Toronto play this is probably the peak Toronto of this match. They're playing very aggressive with Twilight. Twilight is up on the flank, the stairwell going up. He's playing there. And if Houston go to contest him, he hits an anti and he gets peeled and he leaves. Or if they don't contest him, he will peek out and hit a nade on the back line. Toronto will dive onto it. So it's like you either have to push him or you will get antied and lose your fight. So, Toronto hold them at the beginning for a while. Eventually, Houston jump past it in overtime and get a good amount of cart progress, but Toronto just kill the back line and go off with the cart and kill it. So not a big deal. Toronto, on their offense, play Sojourn Tracer, Winston, Zen, Ana. Houston play Sojourn Tracer, Sigma, Ana, Zen. Okay, so Toronto take control of the high ground pretty early into the Sigma comp. Pelican ends up dying, so Houston back up into a lot of space. Toronto pushed that, right, with the nano boost on Muse. And Merit does come up big and does more than Toronto does, and Houston end up stabilizing at the end of A. However, Piggy does air with his flux, and Toronto win using only 1 ult against Houston's 3. Then they do pop overclock and Trank to end it out, and they have 315 entering B. HOU at this point swaps over to Ash. Piggy's over to Winston, and Toronto is just going through it. Piggy is dying whenever he dives in. He's just rolling over and dying. And then Toronto ended up at 245 into C. Piggy hits a promo, but he slept and then woke up, apparently. Merit overclock gets nothing. and Muse kills Iris as the train comes out. And it's a very scrappy fight, and it's just Piggy and Hisu left, but they're trying to reset because Hisu's not going to win that 1v1 and then push anything. It's just not going to happen. But then Muse kills Merit, and then Piggy gets Twilight, but Houston have good kills. But at this point, Muse goes crazy. It's able to hit a Primal to kill one, and then another as their Sojourn ulting to kill Pelican and then Merit. And Hisu coach guns Houston off the point, and Toronto end up winning. And it's just that easy. So Piggy on the Winston, still not maybe as good as a actual, standard Winston player like Muse, but he's getting there. Coliseum is a 112 to 80 victory for Houston. Of course it is, because Houston on Coliseum against Toronto Defiant. Where have we seen this one before? Dante comes in for Piggy. Toronto playing Ash Tracer, Balls, and Ana. Houston playing Sojourn Tracer, Doom, Ana, Zen. And Houston take this charge early. They capped the checkpoint in just 3 minutes, and at that point, you see that checkpoint capped, and you're kind of thinking it's just done. Toronto are able to get fight wins, but they're not able to get multiple fight wins in a row, which means they're not actually able to get a lot of cart progress. And they don't really get almost anything until overtime, basically. And Hisu comes up in overtime to get a few fight wins. But and Muse actually swaps over to the Zarya, which I don't hate. Houston have struggled with it, and trying to get the checkpoint, but Houston are able to force out ultimates and then dive in with their own, and they kill the backline and end up winning. So a bit sad, but I wish they would have thought about the Zarya maybe a little earlier, but happens. Li Zhang now is a 2-1 for Houston, a tragically sad one. No substitutions, but you'll notice that Toronto are playing the Zarya. But Muse is in, so they plan to play Zarya with Muse. I don't particularly love that. Li Zhang, 2-1 for Houston. So control sign is 100 to 73. Toronto playing Ash Tracer, Zarya, Zen, Ana. Houston playing Sojourn, Genji, Doom, Ana, Zen. So yeah, Muse is on the Zarya, and Pelican kills 4 to start the round, which is not a good premonition if you're a Toronto fan. Muse Zarya is actually doing well, though. But as soon as Houston can get onto the supports and kill out Twilight and Chorong, mostly Twilight because he's the Ana, right? Toronto will just topple over and die, and they're able to do that pretty well. They just force the resources, they take out the backline, they hard focus it, and they just win. It's either that you kill the backline with a dive and you win, or you don't kill the backline and you lose. It's really that black and white right now, I feel. My market's a 100 to 99 for Toronto. They're playing the same thing. Houston playing the same thing. It's the same story, but this time Hisu does a lot because he's able to do a lot more in night market than he was on Control Center. So Houston aren't able to as easily get the kills on the backline for free, and they end up, trading out a lot more. So Muse ends up living more, and Trent ends up winning the fight more. However, Gardens is 100 to 0 for Houston. Muse starts on the ball this time, and I'm like, oh, this is why he's in. They wanted to play ball and Gardens. But then he swaps to Zarya almost instantly. So I don't know, but Houston just win. They literally just win. Merit's going crazy. Merit actually kills Hisu and then kills Hisu again right away in the first 30 seconds. Merit just goes big. Merit goes pretty nasty on him. But Thompson player of the match is going to be Dante because it's just a consistent thing. He's doing so much. He's constantly pressuring the backline, and that's what they needed to do to win. You can't have. It's not enough to just get the kills with Merit to win. You need Dante to be able to pressure that backline so heavily, especially into the Zarya composition, that they were able to win out against on both Coliseum and Li Zhang. And still, Nano Dante, it's just winning fights. If Nano boosting Dante is as good as Nano Boost, it's better than Nano boosting a wins because he has more kill pressure with how accurate he is with his shots. Just an absolute beast, really. But overall, Houston just looked better at the dive. So Toronto decided to lead into the Zarya going into the final map. And it works out pretty well. But I still think maybe if you're going to have Hoppa on this roster, you're willing to play Hoppa, why not just put him in here? I understand that maybe next stage, if you want to transition to Muse, being your primary player, you never want to put Hoppa in. That makes sense to me to an extent. But right now, in this specific moment, you need to put Hoppa in if you're planning on playing the Zarya for 2 out of 3 maps. You just need to. And Toronto really did have some good moments with Twilight on the flank. They were hitting some really good synced dives with the nade. with everything, but they weren't able to consistently pull it out. And that kind of flanking nade, go when the nade comes out style isn't really possible on maps like Colosseo and Lijiang, where the Ana doesn't get as good angles and as many places to set up and do that. So they just couldn't win it. And Houston were the better team. But moving on to Philadelphia against Dallas. I spreaded 3-0 for Philly. It was a 3-1. This one is not a map 5, it's just a map 4, so saves a little bit of time here. Oasis is a 2-1 for Philly, but City Center was a 100-0 for Dallas. So first up, Philly playing MN3 Zest, Bellisria, Aim God, and Fixer, no surprises. Dallas playing Edison, Sparkle, Fearless, Fielder, and Chio. But it's a 100-0 for Dallas and City Center, but we've seen this one before against Shanghai. Um, Dallas playing Reaper, Genji, Ball, Moira, Lucio. Philly playing Tracer, Echo, Balls, and Brig. And Dallas doing the thing, setting the tempo, smashing into Philly. And Philly were very unable to coordinate a dive. Bellisria was MIA. I don't know if his mouse was plugged in. Maybe his keyboard wasn't there. Maybe he was just there in the lobby as a spectator. But there was no coordinated dives. There was just the Philly damage players trying to do things. I don't know. I didn't see Bellisria, but it's really just cosmetic, I think. Philly had 2 kills total this entire map, in this entire round. But Gardens was a 100 to Philly, and they learned how to play dive between rounds. And Dallas couldn't run onto the back line and win, so they lost. It's just standard. Bellisria really was setting up good dives on Gardens, hitting big slams and getting multiple kills from it, and just Dallas unable to do the running. And it happens again on University. Same thing. This was not a 100 to 0. This was like 190. This was like 100 to 99 or something. It was quite high. But Philly win the initial fight. This is gonna mess up everything. I'll do that. Okay. Philly win the initial fight. Bellisria does die early. Dallas pull up and they win. And now that they're in control, Dallas take the initiative and use both support us throughout the fight. And they do get a lot of kills, but Zest and MN3 and Bellisria to an extent don't care about their supports and just win. And Dallas basically used both support ults and other ults and lose, which is catastrophic because Philadelphia have not used theirs. With this, Philly's able to draw out a long time for them on their control side, and they do die eventually, but they're able to win out overall with how well they've done it. And Sparkle was dying first a lot, very often, which is not what you expect from him. He's Sparkle. He's supposed to be like really good, and he was not this map though. But yeah, he was dying first a lot, and whenever you're just down Sparkle like that, it really hurts when your strategy is to run and and just kill people as much as you can, as fast as you can by smashing into them. Having no Sparkle do that is quite rough. King's Row comes through, 6-4 for Dallas. Fury comes in for Bellisria, and Gurio comes in for Edison. But yeah, so this is where Dallas get their 6-4 map win. Philadelphia offense are playing Sojourn, Echo, Sigma, Zen, Bap. Dallas playing Sojourn, Genji, Winston on a Zen. And Philly just kind of roll through A and B, and they're doing a very good job denying the Dallas support LOS on the Fearless. So on A, they dive out so that Fearless doesn't get any of his healing. The pressure down Fearless, and he just dies. And they just kind of roll, right? So they have 5 minutes entering C. But yeah, Dallas are just diving past Fury, making it very hard. However, Dallas ended up stabilizing on B. Sparkle and Fearless are just sinking up dives. I said that last thing. Ignore what I said last time about the diving pass, because the diving pass was coming from Dallas. This was a typo, so I got a little confused. This is supposed to be C. But yeah, they're just diving past Fury on the Sigma, and they're making it very hard for Philly to walk forward and try and win with any picks from the Sojourn or from the Echo. Eventually, Philly are able to win off of Zest, just being Zest. But it's only with 13 seconds left. So they do draw out 4 minutes and 47 seconds worth of C, which is very good. But yeah, normally you'd think this is good for Philly, but apparently it isn't, because Dallas just come back with a vengeance. So Dallas also went through A and B playing the same composition. Guerrero has hit some shots, so that's pretty cool. And they are winning on a very odd composition. I said the same compositions. That's not actually true, because Dallas is playing Sojourn Genji Winston, which sounds normal, but then they're playing Bap Lucio. So why are they playing Bap Lucio? I couldn't tell you. It doesn't make any sense to me, but who knows? There's something there. Maybe Fielder said, I'm just playing Baptiste, deal with it. I don't know. But yeah, similar to Philly, they roll through A and B, but they get held up on C for a long while. But this time, it's because they're getting picked off consistently by MN3 and Zest. Just slowly. The Philly poking them out. But like Philly, they do make it through because of their flex DPS being that guy. Sparkle ends up coming up big, and they ends up winning. So Dallas have 1 minute to complete their second attack, and they play their same weird composition, and they do. They just roll. They don't care. So basically, Dallas make it through A, and Philly choose not to recontest A, so they choose to play Arch. But then they just lose Arc like immediately, um, and that kind of snowballs them because Dallas built ultimates wrong because they didn't need to use ultimates to get past the Archway, and then they get the ult bank. They roll their ultimates, and Philly just lose. They don't even need to use ults for B. Dallas just kind of win. Philly on their offense, they have 1 minute and 13 to do it. They do get through A eventually, but they have to use multiple fights to get through Arch, and at that point, they just don't have the ultimate resources available to get through to C, and Dallas just win with their ultimates that they've saved. Route 66 comes through as a 1-0 for Philly, so you'd think, oh, that means that Philly stopped Dallas early. Well, no, actually. So, Bellisphere comes back in for Fury, and Hammond comes in for Fearless. So the Sigma team and the Ball team have switched. So now Philly is the team diving. So Philly are really struggling to get past the Sigma. They're able to force Dallas back a little bit to get some space, but Dallas comes back and sends Philly out again. And they're just not able to cook up a good dive. It's just not there. That's all they get. They don't get anything else than that. And it's very weird because they selected Route 66. It was their map pick. They could have went to Circuit Rail where MN3, it's just like MN3's map, and Philly has been very strong there. But they choose Route 66, and then they get basically full, and they do get just straight up full held. And I don't know, MN3, they choose not to bring him to his playground. And it's also very weird to me that how like poor MN3 performed Alan Sojourn into a Sigma, because normally you build up those rail shots, you find an angle, and you're able to kill the back line whenever the team dives in. He wasn't able to do it. However, Dallas on their offense have an even worse time. They're playing the Sigma still into the ball, and this time Philly are just diving onto them, not letting them get any poke out, and it's quite bad for Dallas. They just don't do anything. Um, they don't win a single fight. They don't even force Philly back at all, basically. And if they do, right, they're on ball tracer, like very mobile characters that they can leave and they come back very quickly. Um, Gurio doesn't get anything done. That shouldn't be a surprise if you're following Dallas Fuel at all recently or anything. But yeah, this is a very sad map, and I'd rather forget about it, to be honest, because both teams did a very poor job attacking. Very poor. New Queen Street is 112 to 42 for Philly. Just a roll. Fearless comes back in for Hammond, but it's just a roll. So both teams playing ball. However, Philly playing Ash Tracers and Ana with it. Dallas playing so Joint Tracer more of Lucio. To be honest, I couldn't tell you what happened. Philly just hard diffed them. Zest was going crazy. MN3 woke up a bit. It was probably his best map. The fix on the Ana did not disappoint me at all. You could say he even outplayed Fielder if you'd like. And the Dallas Hive Mind have lost connection. They're disconnected from the server, or it's too filled with memory or something. I don't know. It just wasn't there. I wish I could say more, but one important thing is when it did look like Dallas were winning, they were gaining some ground. Right? They wasn't horrible. They got 42, but anytime that would gain ground, Zest is just a gremlin on the card. He would always try to steal the bot. There's a time where Philly fight the 4v5 while Zest is just pushing all the way. So by the time the fight is done, it starts near the Dallas checkpoint to reach it. It starts near the Philadelphia checkpoint, I guess. Dallas are pushing it. However, the Philly dive comes out onto Dallas, and they win the dive. But whenever the fight's over and done with, Zest had just pushed the cart all the way into Dallas spawn, basically. And it's like, what is going on? How did he get over there? So Philly just win the 4v5 and gain an insane amount of cart progress. Like legit, like 3 fights worth, basically. Well, I'd say 2 fights worth because they were moving barricade. But yeah. Contemplate matching into the Zest. He is that guy. You can count on him to show up, even when Bellosphere wasn't showing up himself. He was there. He was very good on the King's Row. He was very good on the New Queen Street. Route 66, no one was good on Route 66. I guess Bellosphere was kind of good on the defense. So was Zest. But yeah, just Zest. Definitely, I would probably say the best player in the lobby today. But overall, I don't know if Dallas just weren't able to make what they wanted to work with the Moira Lucio 6-man stuff. and then I don't know. They're not able to make it work, so and then they're not able to make anything work. It felt like they really did want to master that one composition as Dallas does, but this composition they weren't able to master it, and I don't rate it that much. So it really didn't turn out well for them, and they end up going, they end up getting packing. They end up getting sent home early, sent packing. I was trying to mix them, it didn't work. Um, but yeah, it wasn't awful because they did fully cap Kings Row twice on their weird comp, and they did full hold Philly en route before they got full held themselves. But it wasn't a great showing for what was supposed to be the third best team in NA against the fourth best team in APAC, right? Philly's supposed to be a pretty mid team for APAC, and sending home a top three team, maybe when people say, "Oh, this team would be top three in NA," maybe they're spitting because according to the math of the standings, which isn't the same thing as the best team, the top three, right? I didn't have Dallas in my top three, but I don't know, wasn't great. It's not it wasn't horrendous, but it wasn't great. Um, and Philly didn't get a clean win on this, right? There were moments where it looked quite bad, but they definitely had a better dive overall. That's for sure. And yeah, they let Kings Row get away from them a little bit by maybe being too passive or by not stopping the Dallas weird dive. Because surely the Baptiste shouldn't be able to go to Winston when he dives as well. But I don't know. But between Bellisri on the ball and Zest, as well as MN3 having a pretty decent performance and just got better as the night went on. Um, Not to mention that his matchup in this series against Curio is heavily in his favor, even when he's having an off game. To be honest, they're able to come out on top pretty handedly. But yeah, not super clean, but not super bad. And finally, 36 minutes into this video, we have the Atlanta reign against this whole dynasty. I predicted 3-0 Spark. No, I predicted 3-0 Soul. However, it's the Atlanta reign that comes out on top, and the kickoff clash champions for the East region are sent home. Well, they're at home already. They're not in Hawaii, but they're kicked out of the tournament. So Oasis is a 2-1 for Atlanta. They're playing Kai, Nero, Hawk, UV, and OG. Soul are playing Prophet, Stalker, Smurf, Creative, and Vindane. So I was eating nachos at this point, and I was talking about Pokemon, so I wasn't actually taking notes. However, Soul kind of rolled to at least at City Center. Prophet was going crazy, but we've seen this before against Spark, where they came out of the gate swinging. Kai played well and ended up getting that little bit of percentage that they had, but it wasn't enough. However, on Garden, both teams play the Zarya composition, and it is a little weird to see Soul play the Zarya comp here. Both teams end up on Doomfist in the end at 99, and Soul end up going off of the point, so they probably could have won this right here, and it would have changed. It would have had a catastrophic impact on this entire match. But they C9, and they go to the next map, the next round. And Seoul are on the Zarya comp still, and they're playing into the Doomfist on University, and it just doesn't work. They get no kills basically the entire round. And Kai, after that first round, where he still did play well, he really did show up and was the reason Atlanta won Oasis. You could say I feel confident saying that. Next, Soul pick Kings Row. They end up winning it 2-1. Nero comes in for Venom, and Stalker comes in for Fitz. So Atlanta on their offense play Sojourn, Genji, Winston on a Zen. Soul play Tracer, Sojourn, Sigma on a Zen themselves. And Atlanta really do struggle to get through A with Smurf on the Sigma, and he's just sending down the orbs, right? Or the spheres, the hyperspheres. And the Winston isn't really great at getting out into the backline with the high ground around the point. And I'm a little surprised that Atlanta don't like to play Doomfist here, because we see other teams opt to play the Doomfist, and it's a little weird to me that Atlanta don't, but whatever. However, they find enough frags through Kai to gain point presence and to win. B is very rough, though. Prophet is able to flank and kill the whole backline pretty easily, and Stalker comes up huge by killing both supports in overtime, letting Atlanta get held in the streets of KR, not even at the end. Soul on their offense, they also take a bit to get through A, but they get a pretty significant amount of percentage from their fights as Atlanta come back and recontest and force them out. But as Hawk dives in on the Winston, by the way, he's on Winston. He gets slept, Soul kind of go around him. They just go on the point. They win because they don't have very much to do. And while he's sleeping, they cap out. They had 255 into B. And they just get moving through B. Prophet hits a blade, isn't enough. Kai comes up big. And left to do stabilize, but Nano Smurf wins. Prophet wins. and Seoul just win, right? There's just a lot of winning going on there. So Seoul win their map pick. Going to Atlanta's map pick, which is Circuit Airlines, Fitz comes in for Stalker. Stalker at this point has been keeping up with Kai, I would say. Fitz doesn't quite match up the same. So Seoul on their offense play Genji, Widow, Sigma, Zen, Bab. Atlanta play Widow, Hanzo, Sigma, Bab, Zen. So very similar, just Atlanta with the Hanzo, Seoul with the Genji. This does mean that Smurf is going to get much more pressure than Hawk because of the Hanzo shield pressure. And that's kind of what happened. Seoul struggled to get through the first corner. They just don't have the same shield pressure. There's a point before the final fight on A where Kai has 2,050 damage and Fitz only has 190. However, Smurf hits a flex, which opens up the corner and allows Fitz to hit 900 damage in the fight. And Seoul head with 320 into B. Atlanta focused on Smurf and they flux up, take out Seoul, and they do enough of the flux after, 230 into C. I'm not sure if what I just said makes any sense, but basically Seoul were stopped there for about 3 minutes or so. Seoul get good push and they go rotate to the pool, and they take pool side, despite UV windowing trying to stop it, they just don't. The pool were unable to set up and complete the map because Kai is just doing too much for his Fitz. Fitz really is not competing with Kai. Kai is just killing him and killing everyone else. And it's very hard to get to Kai. Even the Prophet's on the Genji, it's very hard to actually get to him. There's a lot of distance you need to cover. And Seoul are held at the end of C. Atlanta, on their offense, play Widow, Sojourn, Sigma, Bab, Zen. Seoul play Hanzo, Widow, Sigma, Zen, Bab. So now Prophet's on the Hanzo, probably as a way to do shield pressure. And now Atlanta actually are the ones with the least shield pressure, but they do have more pick potential with the Sojourn. UV dies early. Atlanta don't care though, but then there are picks Prophet and Atlanta push on, but then Fitz kills 2 and Atlanta back. So Fitz actually does things, but it doesn't last forever because this is a very Widowmaker defensive sided point. So after this point, Fitz basically goes back to doing nothing. So Hawk, he hits a flex, opens up the corner, and they lose. Soul lose rather. But Atlanta have 330 entering B. But as they lose this fight, Fitz decides to use sights for zero reason. They were already down 2 and no reason to use it. And with this, Kai has a free sights now. And now sights is normally used. The defensive Widowmaker sights are normally used to stop the pressure of the offensive Widowmaker sights, right? Because if neither team can push, that benefits the defense. But if the offensive team gets free push because the defensive team can't peek out at all, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. So that's how sights are normally used on the defense. Fitz throws it. And because of this, Kai gets a free sight off, and it makes Seoul back up and give a lot of space. Atlanta uses this space to actually win through B and head into C with 310. So a very big misplay from Fitz that kind of loses them B and kind of loses them C as well, because Atlanta just rolled through C. And Kai is still that guy on Widow. He's killing so much, even though this is maybe not the best point for Widowmaker. On the offense, it's a little harder because the sight lines aren't as good to actually get onto the whatever. It doesn't matter, right? But yeah, it was kind of a roll. Kai really did outperform Fitz in a huge way and bring Atlanta to their map win. Now Seoul bring us to Colosseo. They win 73-72, and Stalker comes back in for Fitz. And this is a Stalker difference. I would say Kai got outplayed on this map. So Atlanta start on the rush, but decide to go over to the Doomfist dive pretty early, and it does cost them a good amount of ultimate charge and stuff like that. But Seoul hold on to that lead for basically the whole time. And Kai does a lot, but Stalker does more, right? But the biggest problem here is Atlanta's backline is allergic to living. They are dying to Smurf and Prophet very often, whereas Creative is finding good picks, and Vindame is living enough through Hawk on the Onslaught for a relatively decent amount of time, and they're able to win it out. But it was pretty back and forth. 73-61 isn't a crazy difference. But the biggest difference here was Stalker getting these consistent picks. And yeah, I don't know. That's not much else to say. That's it. At least it's not much that I wrote down. Li Zhang is a 2-1 for Seoul. Venom comes in for Nero. Atlanta on their Gardens, they win it 100-66. Atlanta play Sojourn, Tracer, Doom, Moira, Lucio. Seoul play Pharah, Tracer, Doom on a Zen. So we get the Moira Lucio, which Dallas didn't make it work very well. Florida didn't make it work out that well. It's very back and forth on this point. There'd be an Atlanta win, and then there'd be a Seoul win, or no, it'd be Seoul, Atlanta, but then it's Atlanta, and then it stays Atlanta. Um, I'm very confused about the Pharah Tracer pick. Putting Profit on Pharah means he can't swap over to the Tracer, and taking Stalker off of Sojourn when he was just diffing Kai on the map previous makes no sense. Why is he not on it? And even if you're expecting a rush, I kind of understand it, but even then, you don't need to play Tracer there. Just keep him on it. If Kai goes pretty much unpressured because it's not difficult for Kai to build up charge and then shoot the far out of the sky. That's not impossible. So I don't know what that's going on. And Kai is just able to do so much without having to worry about Stalker at all. He's just winning. Um, and I really disagree with this selection. I don't know. I feel like I don't have a problem with the Pharah as much. It's a bad read into what Atlanta are doing, right? It doesn't really make sense. Like, what is the goal here? What is Pharah killing? The Moira forcing fade, and they're going on the fade. Maybe that makes sense. Um, but I don't know. I really don't know. I think taking Stalker off of the Soju arm is a huge error, and they continue to do it. But they do win this one. Control Center is 199 for Seoul. Atlanta continue to do their thing. Seoul play Cassidy, Tracer, Zarya on a Lucio. So they play the Zarya again. Why? Can anyone ask me that? Can anyone answer that question? Why are they on Zarya? Does anyone know? No one knows. Why are they on Zarya? They swap off it pretty easily. Prophet actually does a lot in the first losing fight because he has 80% on all, and they do actually do some winning. But I don't know. I don't know. Smurf goes onto the Doom. Soul end up flipping the point at 71% because they get that big Deadeye kill and Stalker gets a good stick. And from there, Atlanta kind of struggle. I don't know. I don't love the Mario Lucio backline. I think that the Soul Dynasty were able to capitalize on it pretty easily. But yeah, Kai doesn't it's control center, so Kai isn't able to do as much as he is on the other two maps. Basically, is what it comes down to. There's a lot of other things to talk about. It's Prophet also went really big on the Cassidy. He was just double dinking Kai from across the map on weird angles. Sure. But Kai has to play very aggressively and flank very deep in order to try and get any sort of kills. And so I'll end up winning, right? But Night Market is not the same thing. This says 199 Soul. It was not that. Atlanta win. Atlanta continue to play their thing. Soul play Tracer, Ash, Doom on a Brig. Good. I'd like to take the point and then troll and die. So then Soul actually get the first real percentage. Then Atlanta dive back and win pretty big. Venom comes up really big. Kai's actually not doing so much so far. It's mostly Venom and Hawk. But Stalker hits a diff on Kai because he swaps over to the Sojourn after he bobs Oxygen. Prophet ends up killing Hawk, and Soul flip the point. And UV swaps over to Ana off of the Moira. Kai then diffs Stalker, and then he kills Vidame, and then Atlanta flips. Prophet dies to Kai. Also, Stalker then dies. Smurf kills both supports, but then dies. And now it's been overtime. Prophet comes back, and he does not beat Venom in the 1v1. Stalker comes back and dies. Soul lose, and Atlanta win. So Soul are gone. Not very many people would have predicted Soul to be out in the 2. But there it is. Player of the match going to Kai. He is the reason that Atlanta win their match. Really. When he's able to do more than Stalker or Fitz, they just win. You look at it, starting on what was the first map? Oasis. He was able to do more, he wins. He isn't able to do more on King's Row, he loses. He does more on Circuit Rail, he wins. He does less on Calcio, he loses. He does more on Lijiang and he wins. If Kai is winning, Atlanta is winning. That's just how it works. Stalker did get the better of him on Colosseo, for sure. King's Row, Stalker did as well, but also Prophet was a huge part on that map win. But I don't know, Kai is the difference maker for Atlanta, right? He has to be. That's what he is. Been the whole time. If he isn't, then they're not winning. They're just not. But overall, he'll make some very questionable map decisions and roster decisions. Well, not so much map decisions, but compositional decisions and roster decisions throughout this match. I don't like playing Zarya on the Oasis or the Lijiang. It didn't work that time. Like it wasn't the end of the world. Actually, it was the end of the world. It does cost them, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why you're playing Prophet on Pharah and then putting Stalker on Tracer, especially right after Stalker was just diffing. And I'm not sure about it. They did play a pretty good game, but I like there was very many worlds where Soul wins. They made it more difficult than it needed to be. Atlanta, on the other hand, they stuck to what they know. They didn't do any weird Zarya. Well, they did do some weird Zarya stuff, but it's not as weird. Um, I don't like that the Moira Lucia end up working out. They do swap off it in the end, um, but yeah, Kai, really. That's the biggest takeaway from this. So yeah, comment down below your thoughts on these matches. Like this video if you like it. Subscribe for more daily Overview content, and thank you Thank you so much for watching this late night 4:48 a.m. finish for me. Have yourself a good one.